I'm Boom. I wanted to talk about the Adrian Peterson case and my thoughts on how I feel about that, and also growing up in an African American culture. Not to make this big racial situation, but truth be told, it's an African American or black culture type of discipline. I feel like it's wrong to call him a child abuser, because what he has stated was he didn't attempt to do harm to his child. He attempted to discipline his child because his child was, being ruthless to another child. So as far as if he was an abuser, then that means that's more like a premeditated, I meant to do this, I meant to hurt you, I want to see you in harm's way. If he felt that way, then he would have never had text a woman, speaking about how he had disciplined the child. In any situation, whether if your parents say go to timeout, you could trip and fall and get hurt. If you're being whooped with a belt or a switch or whatever, you might can have some bruises left over. But one thing that I have learned growing up in the black culture, discipline, is I don't feel that whoopings are a bad thing. It's not necessarily a positive thing, but I don't see it as a negative thing. It's more of a neutral type of situation, depending on mentally how the parent is at that time. If your parent is super angry, maybe they shouldn't discipline you at that moment. That's why it's better to have two parents in the household, because when one has had enough or is too angry, the other one can take it. Or it can be your cousin and you at your grandma's house or whatever, just as long as another adult in the house that can think, in a calm sense, because the person that that's trying to discipline or is upset of what the child has done may be too angry to discipline, and you get so angry and you get really, really violent. But as far as this situation, I have been whooped. It's not called spank, because spank is don't do that. No, spank, whoop with a belt, with a switch, with a extension cord, with a shoe. It don't even matter. Not my whole life, because I wasn't a kid that needed whoopings like that. But when me and my cousin were younger, all my cousins were younger, we used to laugh. Like, our parents didn't even whoop us that hard. But one thing we did, what we did can separate the two is, if they would have told us to sit down, time out, because they have tried that don't work. If someone is not taking the bull by the horns at that moment, then you don't see it as important. When they say go get that belt, you at attention. Okay, I ain't doing it no more. I'm not touching it. Whatever I was doing, I'm done. I'm gonna stop. Somebody tells you to go in timeout. You have got so adapted to timeout that you see timeout as fun. You start messing with stuff. You start doing this and that. And one thing, I don't want to make this a racial situation, but what I do want to get in depth about is, when kids, they say that there's plenty of different ways to discipline. And I feel they say it takes a village to raise a child. But at the same time, the household, whatever child you birth, you raise your child of what you know. This is getting way back in history, with what our ancestors instilled in us and how we are disciplined to be able to be the people that we are these days. I don't feel that every child should see a psychologist. First of all, a child seeing a stranger already makes them alert. They don't know you. They don't know why they have to talk to you. Then they start feeling like something is wrong with me. Why do I have to talk to this person? Who is this person? I don't think that is wise for children. I feel like children should get whooped. Sorry, whooped, not beat. Whooped. At the end of the day, we live in a society that they say, the technology is changing, things are changing, trends are changing. Trends can change, technology can change, but the physical form of a person and the physical form of history and what does not change. Just because kids are in our generation, because I'm very young, I'm in my 20s, so just because our generation is out of control doesn't mean that our parents need to stop disciplining the way they were, because I actually feel like parents have calmed down on the way they discipline because everyone is afraid of getting locked up. For this situation right now with this, with this football player, I don't think that is right. He didn't intend to, hurt his child. He intended to discipline his child, and I feel that the way he went about it was not wrong. The way how other people want to see it, I feel like once somebody knows that they can disagree and get away with something, that's what they do. They run with it. So just because everyone is able to disagree, everyone wants to disagree with this man, you want to throw him off the league and do all that. I don't think that's necessary. He's a grown man and disciplining his own child in his own home. If his child were to come to your house and misbehave, you will be looking at him to discipline his child. If his child was at school and did something wrong, they're calling the parent. If talking were to do the job, then they wouldn't be calling the parent. If they can talk to your child or your child behave, they call the parent because they know the parent can enforce things and make stuff happen. At the end of the day, back in the day when I was going to school, they had a paddle. They took that away. Not saying it's a good thing, not saying it's a bad thing, but I tell you what, kids think 3 times before they do something because no one wants to be whooped. But mama say go sit in timeout, you jumping in the corner, you talking about your legs hurt, you doing this and you doing that. I think that in the physical form of being spanked, it makes you think. Also punishments to a certain extent, but you can't do it all the time. But whoopings, I think it make you psychologically think before you act, because you like, last time I got whooped and I ain't like it, or I got a bruise from being whooped last time. I mean, that's not being an abuser. I mean, if you were to stub your toe, you might break your toenail. If you were to color your hair, your roots wouldn't grow back for a long time. So it's like a process of healing. Everything has to heal, and I don't think that this guy should be prosecuted to the fullest extent for disciplining his child. He was doing what he thought that was right. He talked to plenty of the officers without a lawyer. So, he came forth with everything. The text messages, what I read, stated that he disciplined his child. Afterwards, he felt bad, and also some stuff he thought was funny. Who don't think it's funny? Sometimes kids do stuff that's just so funny, and you be like, I can't believe they did that. Haha, it's funny. But, for the most part, the situation was serious. I think people need to back off, think about what they're really wanting done to this man for disciplining his child, that they want him to get kicked off and all this other things. I think that's not domestic violence. It was in his own home, and he's disciplining his child. Can a man discipline his child? Can a woman discipline their child? Just because you particularly do not discipline your child in that way does not make that form wrong. It just makes it that you don't do it. So I feel like people should just back off, let the man raise his children in the way that he knows. Maybe now, since everything has come to light, maybe he could think about a different way, to discipline his child. If he want to keep whooping his child, then I think that's what he should do. So at the end of the day, that's my conclusion. That's what it is. I'm boom.